The city, once vibrant with hope and opportunity, now buzzes with a quiet anxiety. People move through the streets with heightened caution, constantly aware of the racial divides that have deepened in the wake of public unrest. Protest signs flutter in windows, and the echoes of marching feet fill the streets on weekends. The divide between the haves and the have-nots grows more evident, with politicians playing the game of rhetoric while ignoring the systemic issues, tearing the fabric of society apart. The threat of racial violence and police brutality looms overhead like a dark cloud. Maya walks through these streets, her eyes scanning the crowd, always on edge, always ready to defend the people she represents. Every day she witnesses the heavy toll racism takes, not just on the individuals it targets, but on entire communities. Yet, despite the weight of it all, Maya's resolve remains unbroken. Maya Walker is a woman who carries the weight of her community's struggles in every step. At 40 years old, she is a well-established community leader and entrepreneur, known for her tireless fight for justice. Her non-profit organization works to empower Black youth, providing them with the tools to rise above societal limitations. Despite the many obstacles she faces, Maya remains unwavering in her commitment to creating a better future for her people. Her business, a cafe in the heart of a predominantly Black neighborhood, is both a safe haven and a strategic base for organizing efforts. Her actions are fueled by personal history. Growing up in a household where her mother fought for civil rights, Maya learned early on that resistance is not just a choice but a necessity. She speaks not just for herself, but for everyone who has ever been told their voice didn't matter. Every day she wakes up to continue the fight, knowing how important it is to be seen, to be heard, to rise above the layers of oppression. The political landscape is one of deepening division. Senator Richard Taylor, a powerful and controversial figure, stands at the center of this divide. He is the face of a system that has systematically marginalized people of color for decades. His policies favor the elite and serve to entrench the power structures that continue to oppress the most vulnerable. Despite his offensive remarks about Black Lives Matter and affirmative action, Taylor's career has thrived, insulated by the privileges afforded to him by his position. His unfiltered opinions make him a target for activists like Maya, who see him as a symbol of everything that must be dismantled. He represents an outdated way of thinking, a mindset that refuses to acknowledge the reality of systemic racism. Maya knows that Taylor's rise is built on the broken backs of countless people, and she is ready to challenge him on the national stage. Maya receives an invitation to speak at a town hall debate centered on racial equality, a topic that has consumed the nation's attention. Senator Taylor, with his history of polarizing comments, is one of the invited speakers. For Maya, this debate is more than just an opportunity to voice her beliefs. It is a chance to challenge Taylor's harmful rhetoric in front of a public audience. As the debate nears, she feels the pressure mount. The stakes are high. This is a moment where her voice could make waves, but it also risks being drowned out by the louder voices of those in power. Maya is prepared to confront him head-on, though she knows the emotional and social consequences of standing against the system are not easy. Her mind races with the weight of the potential fallout, but her heart remains steady, knowing this is a battle worth fighting. As the town hall event unfolds, the air in the auditorium is thick with anticipation. The crowd is filled with a mix of eager supporters and skeptical onlookers, many of whom have heard the rhetoric from both sides. As Maya takes her seat among the speakers, she steels herself for what's to come. Taylor stands across from her, his confident demeanor and polished words already stirring the crowd. Maya, by contrast, wears no illusions. Her every word is forged from the struggles of her people, the pain of centuries of injustice, and the burning desire for change. As the microphone is passed to her, she senses the immense weight of the moment. The conversation about race in this country is about to change, and she is ready to speak the truth. Senator Taylor, Maya begins, her voice unwavering, you stand here speaking of equality, but your policies have done nothing but widen the gap between the haves and the have-nots. You speak of Black Lives Matter as though it's a threat, but it is your ignorance that threatens this nation. We are not the ones dividing the country. You are. The system is not broken, Senator. It is working exactly as it was designed. And it's time we tear down those walls of division you've built. The room falls into an uncomfortable silence. Taylor's face twitches with the slightest sign of frustration, but he maintains his calm. Maya, he begins, his voice patronizing, we all know the real problem is that you and your movement don't understand the bigger picture. You've been fed lies, and now you're just another angry voice on the streets. You want to call me angry, Senator? Maya responds, her eyes locking onto his. Call me what you will, but it's your system of oppression that's been angry at us for generations. Your anger, your hatred, is what's kept us from being free, from being equal. You look at people like me and you see anger. But the truth is, I'm not angry, I'm frustrated. And I'm determined to change things, even if you refuse to acknowledge the truth. The crowd stirs. Some nod, others remain still. But the tension in the air thickens. Maya stands there facing Taylor with the weight of her words hanging between them. This is her moment. This is the fight for justice she's been preparing for her whole life. And she won't back down. Taylor sneers, You're just another angry black woman who thinks the world owes her something. A sharp gasp ripples through the room. The insult lands, but Maya doesn't flinch. Instead, she stands taller. It's not anger that drives me, Senator, she says, her voice even and calm. It's the reality that people like you have spent generations telling us we don't matter, that our lives are less important. You've called us lazy, entitled, dangerous, but you won't define me. You can't define us, not anymore. The room goes quiet, then erupts. People start applauding, some shouting words of support. The energy shifts. The collective strength of a community ready for change fills the space. Taylor, caught off guard, tries to recover. But the damage has already been done. Maya has not only spoken truth to power, she's shattered the narrative they've been fed. The aftermath of the debate is swift. Maya's supporters flood social media, demanding accountability for Senator. Taylor's words, the hashtag #AngryBlackWoman is reclaimed, turned from an insult into a badge of honor. People in the streets rally behind her, organizing protests, demanding justice. Taylor's attempts to defend himself crumble as his past comments come back to haunt him. Advertisers pull their support, his approval ratings tank. As Maya watches the tides turn, she knows this battle isn't over. But it is the beginning of something much larger. Taylor's downfall is only the first step in dismantling a system that has held its grip on marginalized communities for too long. And Maya will be there every step of the way, leading the charge toward true equality, true justice. The debate room hums with energy, a battleground of ideologies. Senator Taylor steps to the podium, his tailored suit immaculate, his expression one of polished confidence. He begins speaking in broad, dismissive terms about racial justice movements. We must stop dividing the nation with false narratives, he says, his voice booming across the room. The real issue today is reverse racism. These movements are only fueling further division, blaming an entire system for problems that have been built by the very communities they claim to represent. His words fill the air with a heavy sense of discomfort, but his supporters clap, their applause loud and self-assured. Some in the audience listen quietly, agreeing with him. Maya, sitting in the front row, her heart racing, watches him with a mixture of anger and resolve. She feels every word, every lie, as if they are aimed directly at her. These words, these lies are dangerous. They will do nothing but perpetuate the very system that has oppressed generations of people like her. Her hands tighten into fists, the urge to speak out building inside her. When it's Maya's turn, she rises slowly, every step deliberate, each movement filled with purpose. Her gaze fixes on Senator Taylor, her expression steady, unwavering. She knows the world is watching, and this moment, this debate, is bigger than her. Her voice, calm but strong, cuts through the tension in the room as she begins. Senator Taylor, she says, her words firm, systemic racism isn't a theory. It's the reality we live in every day, whether you want to face it or not. The systems you protect, the policies you support, they are designed to keep people like me down. The audience begins to shift in their seats. Some begin nodding, their faces softening as they feel the truth in her words. Others, still uncomfortable with her challenge, cross their arms defensively. Maya feels the weight of the room on her shoulders, but with each word, she stands taller, her conviction unwavering. Senator Taylor shifts in his chair, visibly irritated. His grip on the podium tightens as he prepares to respond, but Maya is already standing in the truth. She will not be intimidated. Senator Taylor's face tightens as Maya continues to speak. His previous confidence begins to crack, and unable to counter her truth, he resorts to the age-old tactic of belittling her. "You're just another angry, black woman who thinks the world owes her something," he sneers. The words hang in the air, sharp and sudden. The audience gasps, the insult striking Maya like a slap. For a moment, her heart sinks. This is no longer a debate about ideas. This is a direct attack on her very identity. She's been called worse before, but this public humiliation, this cruel dismissal, stings in a way that nothing else has. The weight of every moment, every injustice floods her in that instant. This isn't just about policy anymore. This is about a system that has reduced her to nothing more than an angry stereotype. She takes a deep breath, trying to steady herself. The room falls silent. It's a silence that feels suffocating, but Maya knows she must rise above it. Maya closes her eyes for just a second, taking a deep breath, steadying herself. Her mind clears. She is no longer just a black woman in a debate. She is a voice for all those who have been silenced, dismissed, and ignored. Slowly, she looks at Senator Taylor and the audience, her gaze steady. "It's not anger that fuels me, Senator," she says, her voice calm but firm, filled with conviction. "It's the reality that people like you have spent generations telling us we don't matter, that our lives are less important. You've called us lazy, entitled, dangerous, but you won't define me. You can't define us, not anymore." Her words ring out with such power that they seem to hold the entire room in their grasp. The silence in the room thickens, then breaks into a murmur, some in applause, others shocked into stillness. Maya feels the shift, the crowd now hanging on her every word. This is her moment, but she knows it is just the beginning. It's no longer just about her. It's about every person who has ever been dismissed, ignored, or silenced. The truth is finally being spoken. The aftermath of the debate explodes in real time. Social media erupts with people supporting Maya's powerful response, reclaiming the label "angry black woman" and turning it into a symbol of pride and strength. Hashtags like "angry black woman" and "power in truth" trend worldwide. News stations pick up the story, interviewing both her supporters and her detractors. The narrative begins to shift. What was meant as an insult is now a rallying cry for change. People from all backgrounds unite, voicing their support for Maya's courage. The more people speak out, the more Senator Taylor's rhetoric begins to unravel. His words, once treated with respect, now seem hollow. His approval ratings plummet, and his allies begin to distance themselves. "What you've just seen," one pundit says on live television, "is not a woman angry at the world. It's a woman speaking the truth. And that's something too many people have been afraid to hear for too long." Meanwhile, Taylor's camp attempts to downplay the incident as political correctness run amok, claiming that Maya's response was overblown and misguided. But it's clear, his words cannot be taken back. The damage has been done, and the public has taken notice. The tide has begun to turn, and Maya's voice is at the forefront of this movement. Across the country, protests and rallies spring up in response to the debate, with people of all backgrounds joining in solidarity. Communities, particularly those who have long been marginalized, rally around Maya's words. Letters pour in to local media, calling for accountability and demanding that the system finally address the realities of racism. Maya's non-profit sees an influx of donations and support, and her cafe becomes a meeting point for activists, legal advocates, and community leaders. The energy around her is palpable. People who were once hesitant to speak out now find courage in her example. Maya understands that this is just the beginning. This is not merely a personal victory. It is the spark of something much larger. This movement is gaining momentum, and Maya knows that with every word she speaks, with every rally she leads, they are breaking down the barriers that have kept them all silent for far too long. As Maya's influence grows, so does the opposition. Senator Taylor's allies in the political world begin to fight back, calling her an agitator, someone who is stirring the pot. News outlets sympathetic to Taylor's views amplify his rhetoric, framing him as a victim of cancel culture and attacking Maya as a divisive figure. They continue to question the legitimacy of the movement she represents, painting it as a fleeting reaction rather than a fundamental challenge to the status quo. But Maya remains resolute, the support of the people growing louder with each passing day. She knows the fight is far from over, but the battle for truth and justice has begun in earnest. This is no longer just about changing minds. It's about changing the very system that has stood in the way of equality for centuries. Maya, with every word and every action, becomes the embodiment of the resistance that will continue until the fight is won. The streets pulse with energy, a sea of bodies flowing with purpose and urgency. The march, initially a quiet act of defiance, has grown into a full-throated cry for justice. The air is thick with the shared conviction of thousands. Each person here knows they are part of something larger than themselves. Maya stands at the heart of the crowd, feeling the weight of the moment press against her chest. She can hear the chants rising, the collective shout of a community ready to demand what's long been denied. Her phone buzzes relentlessly. Messages of support flooding in. Interviews, offers for speeches, requests for her to lead. The pressure is mounting, but she doesn't flinch. Maya has carried this fight for years, and now the people have joined her in a movement too loud to ignore. Maya steps onto the stage. The noise of the crowd fades to a murmur, every eye fixed on her. Her pulse races, but she squares her shoulders, steadying herself. This is it. This is the moment she's been preparing for. The microphone feels heavy in her hand, but her voice is steady as she begins. "I am not angry," she declares, her words cutting through the silence. "I am frustrated, yes, but most of all I am determined. We will not back down, and we will not be silenced anymore." The crowd holds its breath, then erupts into applause, their energy surging with her words. Maya stands tall, feeling the power of the people behind her, their belief in her becoming her own. This isn't just about her anymore. It's about the generations of black voices that have been stifled, the years of oppression now being spoken out loud. This is the turning point. She is no longer just an activist. She is the leader of a movement, her voice a rallying cry for justice. In the days following Maya's powerful speech, the political fallout begins. Senator Taylor, once untouchable, finds himself cornered. His supporters, who once saw him as a hero, now view him as a relic of an old, broken system. Desperation seeps into his every public appearance. In an attempt to salvage his crumbling reputation, he doubles down on his previous remarks. His voice shakes with indignation as he calls Maya and her supporters divisive, accusing them of undermining national unity. His words, meant to restore order, only expose his weakness. The media, once complicit in his polished facade, begins to pick apart his arguments. The once loyal public figures who defended him now question his stance, their silence a damning indictment of his failed leadership. Advertisers, once eager to associate their brands with his name, swiftly withdraw their support. The news cycle is unrelenting, and every headline that once sung his praises now sings his fall. Taylor's empire begins to crumble beneath the weight of his own words and Maya's voice. Once a whisper in the crowd now dominates the conversation. As the protests continue to build, the pressure against Senator Taylor intensifies. The media outlets, no longer swayed by his smooth rhetoric, begin to unearth more footage from his past, old interviews, speeches, and private comments that reveal a consistent pattern of racist remarks and discriminatory behavior. The truth, long buried beneath his career, now rises to the surface, and with each new revelation his public image disintegrates further. The very people who once defended him now find themselves unable to ignore the evidence laid bare before them. The calls for his resignation grow louder, more insistent until they flood every channel. The nation demands accountability, and Senator Taylor is left with no escape. Finally, the breaking point comes. Senator Taylor, once so sure of his place in the political landscape, is forced to address the nation. His face is drawn, his eyes red from the weight of his shame. In a tearful press conference, he admits his failure to represent all citizens, his acknowledgement of the harm he has caused almost drowned out by the growing chorus of voices calling for his removal. Maya, standing firm in the back of the room, watches the once powerful figure unravel. His resignation is final, and with it the collapse of his career. The people have spoken and the system has been forced to listen. But for Maya, this moment is bittersweet. The victory is undeniable. Taylor is no longer in power, his influence shattered by his own words. Yet she knows the real work has only just begun. The fight for justice, for equality, cannot be won in a single battle. She has led the charge, but now it is time for the next wave to rise. The movement she has helped ignite is only in its infancy. As she stands in front of the crowd, watching them cheer for her, she realizes this moment isn't just hers. It belongs to everyone who has ever been silenced, to every voice that has been dismissed, to every life that has been treated as less than. They have won a battle, but the war for justice and equality will continue. And Maya will be there, leading the charge every step of the way. The city has felt the shift. The heavy weight of a legacy built on oppression now trembles beneath the voices of those who have long been silenced. Maya stands before a room full of faces, each one a reflection of years of struggle, of sweat and sacrifice, of a community finally rising up. Her phone buzzes constantly, filled with messages of support, media requests and interviews. There is no respite, no quiet moment to breathe. But for Maya, the flood of calls and messages is a sign that the work is growing, the voices are growing, and the movement is gaining momentum. Her cafe, once just a warm space for people to gather, now hums with purpose. It is the heart of political engagement, organizing, strategizing, and planning. It has become a battleground for change, a place where action is born, and the next steps are determined. Maya's eyes shine with purpose, her face a mixture of humility and resolve. She knows that the fall of Senator Taylor, the moment they all fought for, is only the beginning. The fight for justice is far from over, and she is determined to see it through. The tension that once filled the streets now holds a different energy, hope. As Maya walks through her neighborhood, she sees it transformed. Where once there was disunity, now there is a shared vision for change. People stand taller, their voices louder, their unity undeniable. But it's the sight of a young girl, no, older than 10, clutching a protest sign in her tiny hands that stirs something deep inside her. The child looks up at Maya, her eyes full of admiration and determination. It is a reminder, a sharp moment of clarity for Maya. The future is not just here in this moment. It's in the hands of the next generation. And as long as there are young ones like this girl ready to carry the fight, there is hope for a world where justice is not a dream, but a living, breathing reality. Maya's heart swells with pride, a mix of gratitude and responsibility. She is not just fighting for herself or her community, but for the future, for the world they will leave behind. But as she looks around at the progress, at the energy that fills the streets and the hearts of the people, Maya knows that the battle is far from over. The defeat of Senator Taylor is a victory, yes, but it's only one piece of a much larger puzzle. The true work lies ahead, continuing to tear down the walls that have kept people of color shackled to a system designed to keep them at the bottom. There will be protests, legal battles, and long nights spent organizing. The road will be long and it will be hard, but the moment she feels in the air the energy and unity is proof that the fight is worth it. People now look at her, not as a hero but as a leader, a beacon of light in the dark. And in that moment, Maya knows that she is not alone. This fight, this movement, is powered by the people standing beside her, each one taking steps toward a world of equality and justice. As the crowd cheers, Maya smiles, knowing that every protest, every act of resistance, and every conversation chips away at the foundations of injustice. Together they will break free from the chains that have held them down for so long. The movement is alive, its pulse stronger with each passing day, and Maya will continue walking forward, leading with strength and purpose, knowing that the road to change is long, but they are finally on it.